Amazon Product Research 101. Anyone that's tried to sell on Amazon, you probably already know that finding a good product is the hardest part, especially when you're new and you literally have no clue what to look for. I've been selling on Amazon for about a decade, and trust me when I say it does get easier. Now here are my best tips to finding the perfect product every single time. First up, we're going to be looking for brand name products, not private label, and we're not going to be using Alibaba. Why? Because we're going to be using the wholesale method instead and tapping into sales that are already happening on Amazon right now. So this strategy consists of capitalizing on the advertising these big brands have already done and reselling already reliable, high quality products. This is one of the biggest issues that private label sellers experience on Amazon is quality issues, quality control, return rate. And some of these guys end up spending all this money on advertising to have a product that makes them money, but then the product quality is low enough that they start to get so many returns that Amazon blocks their listing and all the money and time they've spent investing into their brand goes down the toilet. So now that you have an idea of how this business model works that we're going to be working with, these are my top tips to actually pick that perfect product every time. Number one is going to be just simply finding a product that's already on Amazon, and if you grab the ASIN or the ASIN, the product identifier code for an Amazon item, and you go to your Amazon Seller Central and you log in, you click add a product and you type that ASIN in or you copy and paste it and check if you're allowed to list it. Now, if it says listing limitations apply and apply to sell, don't be afraid to actually click apply to sell and see if you get auto approved, because some categories and some brands will auto approve you. You just need to go through the process of clicking the buttons. Now, once you've decided that you can actually sell that product, the next step is checking the profitability for the product that you found on Amazon. It's going to be as simple as what is it selling for on Amazon and how much does it cost from the supplier. You have to include shipping costs and any prep costs as well. If you're using 3PL or if the supplier you're using has an Amazon FBA service where they'll send it directly to Amazon for you, you need to accumulate all of those costs in total, and then you need to use the Amazon FBA calculator and actually see what type of profit you can have. I normally don't like to go below 10% gross profit. You will be able to find a lot of products in the 5 to 10% range, but I recommend going from 9 or 10% upwards of some items are going to be 20 and 30% profit. Funnily enough, a lot of the private label guys like to bash the fact that you cannot find profit over 20% on brand name items, but a lot of the times you can. It just requires digging. Next up, you're going to need to decide how much of the buy box you're going to be able to get shared, or how many sales a month do you think you're going to get. And I always like to be a little bit conservative with it. So for example, if you have an item that sells 1,000 times a month and you have 3 competing sellers, you're going to have to use a factor of +1. So if you have 3 sellers that are selling the same item and it sells 1,000 times a month, they're not all getting 333 sales each. There's going to be a seller that has an older store, and normally you're going to be able to judge that by the amount of feedback they have versus someone that maybe says just launched instead of having feedback. So you're going to know the just launched guy is a brand new store, and the guy with 5,000 reviews is probably a 5+ year old store. He's probably getting more sales than the just launched guy. So keeping that in mind, you need to understand what level of competition is on that listing for how much of the buy box you'll be able to share. And like I said, I like to be conservative. If there's 3 sellers, I pretend there's 4, and I actually like to pretend that all of the sellers are seasoned sellers and that none of them are brand new, even if there is brand new sellers. So if you think you can sell 50 units a month, I would always start with half that and maybe buy 10 or 20 units, send it in as a test, wait for the sales, and let Amazon's data give you the answer to how many a month do you think you can sell. And then your next order, you can go based on that information. Now, you can keep your profit margins above 15 to 20%. It's just going to take you longer to find those items. And then on the grand scheme of things, it's going to take you longer to build the business to a substantial level with a higher profit margin like that. Now, if you allow yourself to go down to 7, 8, and 9% minimum profit, and you're going to be able to find a lot more items that are in that profit range, and there's going to be items that sell 5, 10,000 times a month. If you can sell 5 items and do 8% profit, and you can build the store to $50,000 a month in revenue in 2 years, and you're making 8% on 5,000. So every month you're making $4,200 a month in profit, and you're making $50,000 a year net profit. Or in 2 years, you could try to have a focus on really, really high margins only, and maybe it takes you 5 years just to get to $4,000 a month in profit because you've been very selective. Instead of having to do $50,000 a month to make $4,000 a month in profit, you only have to do $20,000 a month in sales to make $4,000 profit. $4,000 profit on $50,000 $10,000 is about 8% profit. $4,000 profit on a $20,000 a month in sales is about 20% profit margin. So obviously the higher margins are better, but like I said, they're harder to find and it takes more time. So do you want to wait 5 years to make 5-10 grand a month profit, or do you want to do that in the first 1 to 2 years by allowing your margins to go a little bit below 10%? For me, I just recommend never going below 5 to 6%, because theoretically, if you're going to hire some virtual assistants or have someone build the business for you and you have additional monthly expenses, you definitely do not want to go below 5 to 6% profit. The cool thing is, if you have $1 million a year business, you're still going to be able to make $50,000 to $100,000 profit, even having those lower margins. Now, if you focus on some higher margins, you can also do a mixture of the above, and there's nothing wrong with having some lower margin fast selling items and some higher margin moderate to fast selling items to kind of bump your margins up, and that's how I do it. Now, hopefully these tips are enough to help you give Amazon wholesale an actual shot. If you want some really good Amazon advice, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, make sure to follow me on social media, and if you want my personal help and we can actually talk about us building the entire business for you, or me showing you how to do it all yourself step by step, just send me the word Amazon on Instagram and I'll get you set up.